again, it kind of goes back to this notion of, are we doing the right thing, are we not doing the right thing, and should we be beating ourselves up? The U.S. has constantly been criticized for being a consumer country. We consume too much and all this stuff. And the comment that was made earlier, that's what makes the United States. We are consumers. And as a country, we are concerned with the lifestyles of our citizens. China has the third largest GDP in the world, but its per capita GDP is less than El Salvador, Egypt, and Albania. So people in Albania live better than people in China. China has $1.6 trillion foreign reserves, and their people live worse than they live in El Salvador. That is absurd. China is a surplus country, we're a deficit country. One of the things that has to happen in the world is we have to be a little bit less of a deficit country, they have to be a lot less of a surplus country. They need to start selling to themselves. If the Chinese begin to develop their domestic economy with the same aggression that they've developed an export economy, their manufacturing gets turned inward. And they start buying more from outside because they will be supplying their own population, not supplying ours. So one of the things that would flip the circumstances for trade and all those other aspects of export-import is shifting China's orientation. And right now that's going to be happening to China whether the leadership likes it or not. The economy in China is in recession from their perspective. It's 6% growth, which is almost half of what it was a year and a half ago. They're closing 500 factories a week in China, and it's an autocratic country, so what they do is they pack up all these guys that have lost their jobs and they deliver them back to the rural areas. Out of sight, out of mind. Last year, the Chinese government reported there were 26,000 riots or incidents in the rural areas. People are frustrated, they're angry, they're mad. How is our country so rich and we have so little? How do you have 1 billion people that are living impoverished existences and have that last? Well, it's not going to. The Chinese are going to have to contend with it, and they have two choices. They're either going to lose control and have the party challenged, or they start buying the support of their population by spending their money internally. And I guarantee you they will pick option 2 before they go for option 1.
Well, things aren't too simple, are they, as they're intertwined in how they work? And
no, it's the Chinese curse, may you be born in interesting times. And it really is the challenge, I think, of the world as we go forward is that it's a very complex and interconnected place. What happens internationally affects us. We were talking earlier about the auto industry and how it's suffered, and part of the challenge is getting people at the political level to understand that it's not the big three alone. The auto industry in the United States is Honda and Toyota and Volkswagen and Hyundai and Kia and Mercedes and BMW. They all build cars here too. And what their governments do with their auto stimulus ends up happening and helping us. The Japanese are trying to keep Toyota from crumbling, and so they give Toyota money, which Toyota is investing in the U.S. And in order to really deal with the auto industry, you've got to deal with it as it is. It's a global industry. And that somehow, that lesson hasn't necessarily sunk in with some leaders. I mean, the most American-made car you can own today is a Toyota Camry made in Ohio. It is 85% U.S. parts. One of the least American cars you can own is a Ford Escort. None of that was made in the United States. It's entirely foreign parts assembled in Canada. So you've got to deal with these things in the sense that they exist. And one of the things that frustrates me is that manufacturers, when I talk to them, get it because you know your supply chains. You've been watching your suppliers, you know how that's changed. You've watched how your consumers have changed. You've watched how your competitors have changed. The only people that don't seem to understand that the world has changed are living in Washington, D.C.